Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars and welcome to another classic film review, and today is a classic comedy film from the 80s, 1987's Planes, Trains and Automobiles, the John Hughes classic that stars, of course, Steve Martin and John Candy. Now, I've just rewatched this recently to prepare for the review a few weeks ago, and it just reminded me what a fantastic comedy this is, and what a genius John Hughes was, and was responsible for writing and directing many of the comedies from the 1980s that are fondly remembered by many. And we're talking from National Lampoon's to Ferris Bueller's to The Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, Planes, Trains and Automobiles. And then he moved on into the 90s and we got things like Home Alone and things. I mean, the guy was a genius, and it was a real shame when we lost him at such a young age, John Hughes. But I digress a little bit. I just wanted to say what a great influence John Hughes was to 1980s comedies in general. And many would argue that this is one of his best, if not his best, comedy. I mean, he's done so many, but this is right up there in my opinion. And if you're not aware of what Planes, Trains and Automobiles is about, well, it's set at Thanksgiving in America, and Steve Martin plays a character called Neil Page, who is a family man, and he wants to get home for Thanksgiving, but he has to get a flight from his office and to get back home. And he's cutting it fine basically, and his meeting runs late and he's in a huge rush to get to the airport, and he's held up by many things, one of them being Del Griffith, played by John Candy, who steals his cab and all this kind of stuff. And then when he finally gets to the airport, what he thinks is on time, it's delayed. The bad weather delays the flight, and then he ends up getting on the flight and it all goes terribly wrong, and the flight gets diverted because of bad weather. And then essentially the clue's in the title. He has to use planes, trains and automobiles in order to get cross country and get home to his family for Thanksgiving. However, the flip side to that here is that he is shackled to, not literally, John Candy's character Del Griffith, and they decide to travel together basically, much to the dismay of Neil Page, Steve Martin's character, because he finds Del Griffith to be incredibly irritating on many levels. However, they grow very, very fond of each other as the road trip progresses. So, and essentially that's what this film is really. It's a road trip film set at Thanksgiving, and if that's your sort of thing, you're going to love this film. Now, sometimes it's hard to do a classic film review, especially for a film that's been out there for so long, like this, because many of you watching this review will probably have seen the film, but I'm still aware that I don't want to give spoilers and things like that. But this film is just it's an utter joy. The chemistry, the on-screen chemistry between Steve Martin and John Candy is remarkable. It's so well done, and they work so well together on a comedic level that it's a joy to behold. And this film also balances that fine line between comedy and drama. There are some heightened dramatic moments in this film and emotional moments that both characters have to display, and they both handle it beautifully, and it's another indication of, I mean, sometimes certainly John Candy doesn't get the respect he deserves when it comes to dramatic performances. Well, if you want to see the potential for the actor here, then you should definitely watch John Candy in Planes, Trains and Automobiles. Not that if you're a fan of John Candy you will have any doubt anyway. For me, he was one of my favourite comedic actors of the 80s, and I knew he had the potential. And because we lost him again quite young, he would probably have moved into even more dramatic roles as he matured as an actor, and I would have certainly looked forward to seeing that. And it was a real shame that we didn't get to see more dramatic roles for John Candy. The film is brilliantly written by John Hughes. It's funny, but on an almost intangible level. It never feels like it strays so way out of reality. Like the National Lampoon's films, as fun as they just feel like beyond reality sometimes. This one doesn't. It always kind of feels within that realms of possibilities. It just kind of toys with them a little bit and tinkers with them to make them a little bit unbelievable. And I also think this film took risks as well, because it was rated. I think it was rated a 15 on its release. It's certainly rated R, and it didn't need to be. And that's mainly down to one major scene, and that's the scene where Neil Page, Steve Martin's character, goes back to the car rental firm to play holy hell with them when they left him in a car park with a car that he's rented that wasn't there, and he F's some blinds at the cashier. Now that was apparently what attracted Steve Martin to this role, that scene alone, and they could have reshot that scene and tamed it down massively, but it would have taken so much away from this film. But it might have actually made the film a little bit more successful, because it wouldn't have been rated R, if you like. But I'm glad they didn't mess with that scene. It's an absolute one of the best, most memorable scenes in this film and in many comedies from that era. And I'm going to give this film a 9 out of 10. It's a timeless comedy classic from the 80s with two incredible performances by two massively talented actors in the lead roles. And if you haven't seen Planes, Trains and Automobiles, it is one you certainly need to be checking out. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time for more reviews, of course, on Screen Stars.